Welcome back to Historically Fashioned. So I guess I maybe fibbed just a tiny smidge in my introduction video where I said I was not going to vlog the process of making my 1890s day bodice. Yeah, I kind of changed my mind. So just as a reminder, this is what I'm working on right now. Yeah, I changed my mind just for the fact that I have never vlogged before. And I figured this is good practice before I start a new project to kind of get some practice figuring out how this works, because I don't think I'm very good at it. So maybe let's get the kinks out while there's nobody watching, shall we? So yeah, I am working on the 1890s day bodice or blouse. This is going to be my entry for the 2022, right? 2022-23 Foundations Revealed competition. So the theme is like something about, I can't remember off the top of my head, something about nature anyways. And so my thought process is like basically after a summer storm. So I'm going to be using a blue shantung silk, which, is it historically accurate? No. Do I care? Absolutely not. I got this for a steal at the charity shop that is near me that only does the, what do you call that? Craft and sewing supplies. So it all benefits like a local senior site. Yeah, and I got 8 yards of this for $20. So I've already made the skirt out of this fabric. And so now I'm working on the bodice. And so it's going to be the silk shantung and then the plastron, which is going to go here down the front of me, is a cotton velveteen, and the poofs on the sleeves are also going to be cotton velveteen, but the main like tight sleeves are going to be the blue silk. So that's kind of my idea for it. I am only up to step 4 on this. Step 1 was to make the to fit the lining, because this is, you know, a fitted lining and then everything else is draped on top of that. So all of, excuse me, hi, thank you. My kitten is on my desk. So, you know, all of this stuff is draped on top of a fitted lining. So the fitting of the lining took a little while to make sure I had it just the way I wanted it. I've got the back piece done and it mounted onto the lining here. At least it's basted on. I haven't like actually like stitched it down completely yet, but it is basted on. So we've done that, and it's got the boning channels in there as well. Then I've got my front linings prepared here. I've got the facings on, and they're just waiting to have the blue layer put on top. And then I have my like plastron that I've already showed you. It's prepared. I've got it onto a cotton silesia backing, and then I've just got the facing on here. So that's needs to be basted on and then actually stitched on. And then I can move on to the part where we get to the front trimming. Now, I don't know if you can see it in this picture. I will try to show it here. You can just barely make out like a line of black trim. So I do want to add a trim. So what I have for that is actually this white kind of braided trim. It's just a very simple trim. It looks like this. However, I do want it to have a little more pizzazz, I guess, to it than it currently does. So I want to add some beads to it. Now, a beader, I am not, at least not when it comes to like beading onto fabric. That is not my jam. I do have a very like a pretty big stash of like some really nice beads that are like glass check beads. However, they are all too big for my purposes here. So, sorry, I have mayhem happening on my desk right now. My little kitten is crawling all over the place, getting into everything. Yeah, so she's causing me all kinds of trouble. So yeah, so I was like, ugh, what am I gonna do for my beads? And then I remembered that many moons ago, many moons ago, probably about 10 or 15 years ago, I purchased this thing right here. I got it at Michael's, like I said, many moons ago. I almost destashed this at one point and took it out to my favorite thrift shop and donated it there, but I did not, and I tucked it away in my closet. And I remembered that it existed and was able to find some beads that I think will work for this. So my plan is to use these beads right here. They're hard to see through the plastic. I will get a close-up shot of them later. And stitch those onto the trimming so that it looks like little raindrops and adds a little flash of interest. Because right now, I gotta say, I think this trim, while cute, is, yeah, it's a little boring. So that needs to be done. And then there's also the belt that needs to be accomplished here, which you can see here in this picture and obviously here in this picture there. I wanted to do like a rainbow fabric, but again, I'm not buying fabric right now. Everything I'm doing is from my stash. And so then I remembered that I had some sparkly, rainbowy organza stuff that I had used for a costume many years ago. It is a real pain to work with, being that it is some kind of probably polyester. I don't know, some kind of nonsense that I picked up at Joann's. So what I'm doing is I have gone ahead and cut the belt pieces out of the cotton velveteen, and then I layered that sparkly organza-y stuff over the top, and we're going to stitch that on. Now these two fabrics, no. She's eating pins. Absolutely no. No. You are going to get hurt. Stop that. Hey. Thank you. My goodness. Yeah, these two fabrics do not play nicely together. I've pinned the heck out of them, but have found that even with that, they still shift around. So I'm going to go ahead and baste these two layers together, and then I'm going to run them through the sergers because, yeah, the velveteen leaves little white velvety boogers all over the place if you don't do that. So those are my two goals for today. And then maybe, hopefully, I will go ahead and get the facing on my plastron at least basted on, if not sewn completely, and then hopefully start assembling this bodice because it's taken me way too long. Yeah, this shouldn't take this long. So let's go ahead and reset this camera, and yeah, and I will show you what I'm doing. Okay, so we are just going to go ahead and baste these two pieces together. I'm going to be doing this one stitch at a time, just because, like I said, this fabric combination does not, they do not play nicely together, and all they want to do is shift like crazy. So I am trying to move it as little as possible, and you can see here how the velveteen is already like fraying and wanting to make a ginormous mess of itself. So we will go ahead, get this basted together. I've already done the other two, and I've got my wax caught up in there. And then we'll run this through the serger, and then we will move on to seeing if I can figure out how to bead that trim. then, so now that that's done, let's go ahead and take these bits here over to the serger, and yeah, then I can be finished with this part at least and try the beading. Okay, so now that those are all serged, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on trying to figure out how much I want to bead of this. So, and seeing if whether or not I can even do it. So I guess the first thing I need to do is measure my center front to decide how long each trim piece needs to be. So each trim piece is going to be about 21.5 inches long, but I'm only going to bead about, let's see, 5/8 of an inch seam allowance at the top, right? I'm only going to bead about 20 inches. That leaves me some seam allowance on either side, and I don't have to worry about sewing over any beads. So I guess let's get started on that. All right, so I have, like I said, never done this before. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do is starting a little bit further back here. I've got this silk thread. Let me just show you what I'm using here. I'm using this kimono silk thread to sew the beads on, and I've doubled it. So hopefully it will be strong enough. And on the back side here, I am just going to take a few anchoring stitches. So hopefully this works. This could be like a massive fail. We shall see. I really don't want to have to resort to glue because I am a very messy gluer, and my gluing never, I stink at gluing, okay? All right, so I've taken a few anchoring stitches, and that seems pretty promising. Now we'll come up here through the front, trying not to tangle up too badly. And then I'm just gonna kind of weave my way over to my starting spot. And I think what I want to do is put one bead in the center of each of these. So I guess I'm just going to pick up a bead. I don't know, maybe with this beading needle, and I'm going to go down into this area. Maybe. And then I'm going to go up, and apparently I'm going to need to make my stitches a little bit smaller because I can really see that stitch kind of crossing over. That's okay. This is just going to be, I'll put this end at the bottom. Well, I don't know where I'll put this end. Anyways, and then I'm going to go back through the bead, down through, and call it good. Then I'm going to come up here into the next one, pick up a bead, and go down. Okay, this is going to be time consuming, but I think it's definitely doable. is Tuesday. Yeah, yesterday I didn't get as much done with the beading and everything that I wanted to do. I only managed to finish one length of the trim that I need. Yeah, and then my battery died. And so yeah, I don't know. I'm just not motivated to finish this project. I know I need to finish this project because I want to start on some things that are more appropriate for summer because it has gotten hot here in California already. So yeah, I really do need to get this done, and I know that if I set it aside to work on something else, I'm gonna have a hard time picking it back up. So this is how it has turned out so far. I'm actually really happy with it. You can't really see how sparkly it is on camera, but I am very happy with how it turned out. So I guess I'm going to go ahead, continue the beading today. I didn't just do that yesterday though. I have been working on the truly Victorian cape for months. It's a very simple garment that I've just procrastinated with. So I did work on stitching some appliques. Let me get it. Stitching some appliques onto the cape. So it is this green velvet, which I have had for decades and decades. And then I worked yesterday on stitching this down, which is very tedious and time consuming. And yeah, but it is what it is. So I guess I'm going to continue on with my beading, and then we will hopefully finish that today and hopefully get starting to assemble this bodice. So. All right, I finally finished sewing all of the beads onto my bits of trim here. So those are ready to go onto the bodice when I am ready for them. I actually am really happy with how it turned out. I think it's really pretty. I don't think you can see it, how sparkly it is. You probably can't even see the beads on here. But yeah, I really am happy with how it turned out. I think it's very pretty. Let's see if it'll focus that close. There, baby. I don't know. There we go. Yeah, so I'm really happy with it. I think it's super pretty. Now I can go ahead and baste the facing of the plastron onto the plastron, and then I can take it over to the sewing machine and sew it down. So I guess I'm going to do that next. Okay, so I finished sewing my facing on to my plastron, and now the next step, it says, let's see, trim back the seam allowance, clip at the curves, and understitch the seam allowance to the facing, sewing as far as possible toward the corners. Turn the right way out and press the edges, turning the seam slightly out of sight. The plastron's wrong side. Okay, so yes, I'm going to need to remove all my basting stitches from both the plastron and also what I have, like my gathering stitches and stuff. So I'm going to remove all of those. As you can see, I've got quite a few basting stitches in here. And then I guess I will trim the seam allowance, clip the curves, and see about understitching. I think this area here is going to be super tricky, but we shall see what we can do. Today is Wednesday. I made it halfway through the week. I am still in my jammies this morning because I cannot be bothered this morning. I did do some things. It's like, what time is it? It is 11:20 right now. I did spend a couple hours looking for a job. I spent some time editing, and now it is time to get cracking on this bodice. So I did manage to finish tidying up the inside of the plastron last night. So that is there. That is done. I don't typically do sewing like in the sewing room at night, so it's just handwork. I didn't film this because, yeah, I just whipped it down there. So that's all tidy on that side and finished. You don't do anything at all to this side of the plastron because this actually gets sewn on to your bodice lining. So this is the right side of my lining, and it goes, so that'll go here, right? And then this plastron gets stitched down right here along this lining. And then the whole thing will get covered with the blue silk. So you don't need to do anything on that side because that's all going to be covered. So yeah, I guess my job for this morning, today in general, is to get that basted on. And I also want to go ahead and put my boning channels onto my darts. That way I don't have to try to maneuver all of that when I've got all the stuff attached. It's much easier if I just do it on these pieces alone. So I guess I will get cracking on that, and I will see you guys back here sometime later. Well, it is 3 hours later, and all I have managed to accomplish is stitching 2 bone casings onto my lining fronts. That's it, 1 on each side. I stitched them on, realized I stitched them on the wrong side, took them off and stitched them on again. Then it was time for lunch, and then I had to run an errand that I was not expecting to have to run today. So now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and put the plastron onto the right front, and I guess then we shall see what happens next. So I've prepared the front bodice here by turning in the seam allowance, and now I'm going to baste it in place along the stitching line, and then this is where the trim will come in. Once I get it basted down, then I will cover that stitching line like this. I think I have that upside down. Yes, I will cover it like so. Yeah, I think that is going to be super, super cute. So I have just realized that I've put my plastron on the wrong side. Right? I think so. Wrong sides together. This, wait. Yes. This is the right side. Oh. Okay, we're taking it apart. Oh, good gravy. So do you ever just have one of those days? That has been today. Between stitching my, gosh, it's all wobbly. Between stitching my boning channels on, or boning casings onto the wrong side, and then I stitched my plastron onto the wrong side. It's been one of those days. So it is 3:48 right now, so I'm just about to leave to take my daughter to her trumpet lessons. I can feel a migraine coming on, so that's always enjoyable. So I guess I'm going to call it quits for today. I did get this basted down. I am liking the way it's looking so far. Next step is to get it actually sewn on, and then to go ahead and put the trim right here covering that stitching line. So yes, that would be the right side done. I still have to do the left side. I will pick up doing all of this tomorrow. So it is Thursday today. I am again in my pajamas. I don't think I have to go anywhere today, so I'm probably just gonna stay in my jammies all day. I'm going to hopefully get a little bit more accomplished today than I did yesterday. It is already, oh gosh, I don't even know what time it is. I think it's about 11 o'clock again. I've already done, you know, my job searching and all of that stuff this morning. So I need to go ahead. I still need to like stitch this in place. Right now it's just currently basted. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach the these two together, the left and the right side together. And then I need to put the pleats in. There are pleats in the shoulders here and in the waistline, so I need to put those in and baste all that stuff in place. Once I do that, then I guess it's attach the shoulder seams and then try the collar, which always scares me. So I guess I will go ahead and get started stitching this down on my machine. This one I will just baste in place by hand, and I'll hand baste my, what are they called? Pleats. Yes, that's what they're called. All right, so I guess I'm gonna get started. Okay, so I got the right side sewn down, and then I did put most of the pleats in here, but I realized one of the pleats actually goes over the stitching line, so thus it's going to go over the trim. So I need to attach the trim before I can do that pleat. So I guess I'm going to do that now. I'm going to add the trim onto this side, and then I'll go ahead and baste the front in place on the left side and add that trim. And then I can pleat them, baste all of that down, and then it's shoulder seams time. Okay, so it is now about 4 o'clock. As usual, I did not get done anywhere near what I wanted to get done. I did, however, get the trim onto the bodice fronts. However, what I did realize after getting one completely stitched down and this one halfway stitched down is that, yeah, I have to put a collar on here, and I don't really want all of this in the collar. So what I'm going to do is probably remove a bit of this so that I don't have quite as much of this in the seam allowance. And then I'm going to fold this back when I go ahead and sew on the collar. And once I get the collar on, I can finish stitching this down. But I guess it's where I'm going to leave it for tonight because the cats are hungry and they are starting to get restless and pester me a whole lot. And I also need to get dinner started for the humans in the house. So yes, we're going to leave it here today. Tomorrow, hopefully I can get the shoulder seams together and get the collar on. That's going to be my goal. If I do really well, then maybe I can actually stitch up these side seams and have pretty much a bodice. It'll just need closures and binding on the bottom at that point. So yes, we are going to go ahead and go. My cat is playing with my microphone cord, which is going to be a problem. She's shaking the camera, the whole deal. Yeah, so we are going to go ahead and go for the evening, and I will see you guys back here on Friday. Okay, so it is Friday. As you can see, I actually made an effort today. That is only because I just finished filming a flip through of one of my antique delineators, which is, what was this one? December of 1882. So yeah, I thought I would make myself presentable for that. So yeah, I just did that. Now it is lunchtime, I suppose. It's 12 o'clock, so I do need to eat some lunch, but I do also want to get started on working on this today, see how much I can get done. The first thing I need to do is go ahead and unpick a bit of this. Here at the top, we are going to get rid of some of this out of the seam allowance that I talked about doing that yesterday. Get rid of some of this out of the seam allowance. I need to put the pleats in on this side, and we need to baste everything together. Once that's done, I can sew up the shoulder seams, and from there put the collar on. So yeah, I think I'm going to put my battery on to charge, go eat, come back and get started on this. I think that's the plan. I don't know how much I'll get done today, again, because it is already noon. Okay, I will see you guys back here in a little bit with hopefully that all basted down. I'm probably not going to film that. There's no reason to do that. It's just boring basting. And then I may film a little bit of the collar depending on how frustrated I get with it. I'll see you guys back here shortly. Okay, so it is time to get started with the collar here. So I have the collar pieces prepped. Obviously, this is the collar itself, this is the interlining, and then I just have a cotton silesia lining. I may change my mind on that and go with something white, but we shall see. So the first thing it says to do in the instruction is to flatline the collar without basting the layers together. Now, I'm not quite sure how that's supposed to work, but I'm going to just go ahead and put the layers together and see where we go. So I'm going to take my interfacing, and I don't know if you can see here, I've already drawn on here, just along the bottom or top of the collar. I just added some marks so I can find where the seam allowance is there, so make sure I'm getting this lined up correctly. And my collar is cut, my interfacing is cut faced on the cut on the bias so that it has a little bit of stretch. And I'm just going to make sure that I've got this lined up properly here. And then I'm going to pin it into place. Once I get it pinned into place, I will go ahead and baste it. Hopefully this camera isn't shaking too much. This table, because I've got it on the legs up as far as they go, it's a little unsteady, but it's really the only thing I have that I can attach my overhead camera rig holder thingy to. So I apologize if it is bouncy and making you dizzy. All right, so now that I've got that done, I guess it's time to baste. Probably need some thread for that. It's always a good call, I suppose. I like to use these vintage threads. I have so much vintage thread that was my husband's grandmother's, and it's not good for sewing seams because it's, you know, fairly fragile, but I do use it for basting everything, so at least it is getting some use. Okay, so now that that is basted, the next instruction says trim back the seam allowance of the collar to 3/8 of an inch along the front and top edges and turn around the interfacing. Clip carefully at the corners to remove bulk if needed. First baste, then catch stitch the seam allowance to the interfacing. So let me see. Okay, this is the part that attaches to the actual neckline of the blouse. So I guess this is the one I'm trimming back to 3/8 of an inch and folding in and catch stitching. I don't think I need to worry about, what am I trying to say? I don't need to, you know, worry about finishing the edge because that's all going to be covered. So I just need to fold it in and baste it in place. So where are my scissors? And I want a measuring device. So I'm taking this down to 3/8 of an inch from here. I can only hope that this collar actually fits because I did not do a test run, which was probably not the smartest thing I could have done, but here I am. Let's get the iron out. Please ignore my very ratty looking ironing board here. It is vintage. I have washed the cover many times, but as you can see, I really do need to replace it. It's just one of those things that I just don't get around to doing ever. So I'm going to press this in place and we will, I guess, go from there. Hopefully this works. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead, I'm not going to film this part, I'm just going to go ahead and baste this down. I'm going to clean up these edges here so that I don't have this sticking out. And then I will be back to try to get my collar onto my bodice. That's the part that I am concerned about. All right, I shall return. Alrighty then, so once again, I have accomplished less today than I set out to do. I did manage to catch stitch this all down very nicely. I think it looks nice and neat. However, it seems like it was a waste of time anyways because the collar is too long. You can see here on this side, I've got it pinned. This is the edge of the front of the bodice. This is the edge of the collar. I'm probably going to have to, I don't know, figure something out there. I've also got this issue where I have way too much fabric in here. Those two do not line up. If you can see, there's quite a large amount of fabric there that doesn't belong. And I cannot for the life of me figure out how to pin it over here without it being a ridiculous, bulky disaster. So I'm going to have to do some finagling trying to figure that out, but I do not have the patience for that right now. I have a couple of chronic conditions that I deal with pretty much daily. One of them being migraines, and I can feel one of those starting now, so I'm going to go ahead and take my rescue medication. I do have an appointment in March for Botox injections. I am crossing my fingers that those work. I've tried so many things. And nothing has worked. So hopefully this will work. My neurologist seems hopeful for me. So fingers crossed that that works and I don't have to deal with migraines anymore. The other one decided to act up as well today. That one's, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where I am right now. It is about 4 o'clock. Like I said, I think I'm going to call it quits for today and quits for this vlog this week. So anything else that I accomplish, if I accomplish anything this weekend, will be on next week's vlog. I think this one has gotten quite long, so I may wind up like chopping in the future. I may wind up chopping these weekly vlogs into maybe bi-weekly vlogs while I have the time. Yeah, so I guess that's it. If you enjoyed this kind of chaotic mess of a first vlog, I appreciate you. Please go ahead and click that like button if you did like it. And if you would like to see more content like this, hopefully not so, yeah, such a disaster in the coming weeks. If you'd like to see more, like I said, more of this kind of stuff, if you would like to see some flip-throughs of those delineator magazines and some costume studies of some extant garment, I would really, really love it if you would hit that subscribe button. Next to that subscribe button is a bell. If you ring that bell, YouTube should notify you of any of my uploads. And with that, I am going to say good night, good morning, whatever time of day it is to you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And I will see you next time. Bye.